I never thought I'd be one of those guys who'd end up on this subreddit, but here I am, laying it out because I honestly don't know what else to do. It's like my world has crumbled into a pile of broken glass, and I'm just standing here trying not to cut myself on the shards. It started a few weeks ago. I lost my job unexpectedly. The company I worked for shut down overnight, something about restructuring, but honestly, it felt like a punch to the gut. I'd been there for years, building a life, and suddenly I was stranded, trying to hold it all together. The timing couldn't have been worse, just as I was planning to propose to my girlfriend, Julia. Yeah, I was ready. We talked about it for months. We even picked out a ring. Everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. That's when I started noticing little things. Julia acting weird, texting behind my back, always hiding her phone when I came into the room. At first, I shrugged it off. Maybe she was just being secretive. But then I'd catch her glancing nervously at her screen, quickly locking it when I got close. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt like I was losing her, so I decided to dig a little. One evening, I was sitting on the couch, exhausted after a long day of job search emails and rejection calls. She was in the kitchen humming to herself, but I was distracted. I couldn't shake that gnawing feeling. I reached over to grab her phone when she wasn't looking. My heart hammered in my chest, palms slick and shaky as I unlocked it. And there it was, texts. A lot of them. I scrolled through and saw messages with her best friend, Mark. The kind of messages that no best friend should share with someone's partner. Flirty jokes, inside jokes that sounded intimate, stuff that made my stomach tight. The last message was the worst. Can't wait to see you tonight, miss you already. My breath hitched. I sat back trying to process what I'd just seen. I'm not a fool, I knew what it meant. Julia and Mark, they'd been sneaking around behind my back. Right after I lost everything, she was with him. Their messages showed it wasn't just innocent. It felt like a punch to the gut, a betrayal so deep I could taste the bitterness on my tongue. I kept the phone hidden in my hand all night, my mind racing. I couldn't believe she'd do this to me now, right when I was vulnerable. I'd trusted her with everything. We'd shared dreams, hopes for the future. I'd even considered proposing next month. Now that all felt like a cruel joke. I told myself I shouldn't jump to conclusions. Maybe it was just a stupid joke or misinterpreted, but the evidence was clear. I could feel it in my bones, the way my stomach twisted, the sweat on my palms. My mind kept circling around the same question: how long had this been going on? The next morning I woke up early, still holding her phone like a grenade. I had to figure out what I was going to do. Part of me wanted to confront her right then, demand answers, but a smarter part knew I needed a plan. After all, if she was cheating on me, I had to make sure the revenge hit hard. I couldn't just walk away and pretend it didn't happen. Not this time. I looked around our apartment and realized I'd been blind. I had missed so many red flags. The late nights she claimed to spend with her sister, her phone always glued to her hand, that strange nervousness whenever I'd mention Mark. It all added up now. She'd been hiding something, and I'd been too busy trying to hold things together to see it. I decided I'd need to do more than just catch her. I wanted to make her regret it, make her see what she'd lost. I started planning. I knew I couldn't just call her out in a fit of anger. I had to be cold, precise. I wanted her to feel the sting of betrayal like I did. I needed a way to hit her where it really mattered. But first, I needed proof. I had to find out how deep this went. I scrolled through her messages again, looking for the most recent ones. I found a string that confirmed I wasn't imagining things. Plans to meet later that night. They'd been sneaking around for weeks, probably, and I'd never seen it coming. My mind flashed back to all the times I'd been kind, patient, trying to patch things up. Now I saw it for what it was, her betrayal, plain and simple. I clenched my fists, feeling that familiar rush of anger. All I'd built, all I'd trusted, was shattered. I'd never been a vengeful guy before, but this was different. She'd torn something apart in me. I knew I wouldn't let her get away with it. I needed to think about my next move. I knew I had to do something that would leave her feeling what I was feeling right now. The question was, what? That's when I realized I'd been planning my revenge in my head all night, and it was finally time to put it into motion. I spent the next couple of days walking around in a daze. Every time I saw her, my stomach clenched tight, like a fist was squeezing my insides. I couldn't eat much, and sleep was impossible. All I kept thinking about were those messages, the way her words with Mark felt like a punch in the chest. The trust I'd had in her was completely gone, and now I was trying to figure out how to get even. I started plotting my revenge hard, not because I wanted her to suffer just for the sake of it. I had my reasons. It was about making her realize what she threw away, about making her feel the same emptiness I felt. It was also about reclaiming a piece of myself I thought I'd lost. I knew I couldn't just confront her with anger and accusations. Not yet. I needed to be smart. First, I needed tangible proof that this wasn't just a misunderstanding. I went back and carefully downloaded all her messages, screenshots of those conversations with Mark. I kept the evidence hidden in a secret folder on my laptop, well guarded. I also started doing some digging into Mark. I wanted to know if there was more I hadn't seen. Had they been sneaking around for months? Were there other women involved? I wasn't going to leave a single stone unturned. Meanwhile, I kept showing up at my apartment, pretending everything was normal. I'd go out for a walk, grab coffee, make small talk with neighbors, but inside I was simmering with rage. I watched her move around the apartment, acting as if nothing had happened. It made me more furious, how she could just carry on like I was invisible, like I didn't have a right to know the truth. One night, I decided it was time to set my plan into motion. I didn't want to do anything impulsive. I needed her to see that I was serious, that I'd uncovered her betrayal, and that I knew everything. I started by making a few fake social media accounts and messaging her from them, pretending to be someone else. I wanted to see her reaction when she realized she was being watched. I knew she'd probably back off if she thought I was catching her, but I also knew I could turn the tables. That same night, I sent her a message from the fake account, one that hinted I knew about Mark. I made it sound casual but pointed. "Hey, I know about you and Mark, and I've got all the messages to prove it." I kept the tone calm but icy. I knew she'd be alarmed, maybe even panic. That's exactly what I wanted. The next morning, I saw her rush into the bathroom, her face pale. She was trying to hide her phone, but I caught a glimpse of her screen. She was reading the message I sent. Her eyes darted around, lips pressed in a thin line. That was the moment I saw her crack. I decided I'd confront her face to face, but not just yet. I wanted her to realize I wasn't bluffing. I wanted her to feel the weight of what I'd uncovered. I went into my bedroom, sat down with a deep breath, and opened the folder with all the evidence. My hands were trembling, palms sweaty. I stared at the screenshots, the texts with Mark, the times they planned to meet. It all confirmed my worst fears. They'd been cheating for weeks, maybe longer. I knew I had to be careful about what I did next. This wasn't just about catching her. This was about making her regret everything. I wanted her to understand she'd lost the trust of the man she once loved. I wanted to make her see that her betrayal had consequences. I crafted a plan, one that would make her feel the pain without crossing into destructive territory. It involved exposing her to the people she cared about most, revealing her secret to her friends and family. That was the part that scared me the most, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't let her just walk away from this without paying some price. But I had one more thing to do first. I decided I'd have the final conversation in person. I needed her to see my face, hear the anger in my voice. I wanted her to know exactly how much she'd hurt me. So I set a time to meet her, telling her I needed to talk about the relationship. I didn't tell her what I knew. I wanted her to come unprepared, vulnerable. That's when I'd strike hard. Waiting for her reaction was the hardest part. Every minute felt like an eternity. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, stared at the door, and wondered if she'd deny everything or start crying. Either way, I knew this was the beginning of the end. I was ready to take the final step, confront her, lay everything bare, and make her face what she'd done. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. That night, everything would change. The day of the confrontation finally arrived. I had spent the entire morning rehearsing what I'd say, but honestly, nothing I prepared would match the boiling rage I felt. My stomach was twisted into knots, and my hands kept trembling as I grabbed my coat and headed out the door. I told myself I wasn't going to lose control, that I'd be calm, even cold when I saw her. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. The cafe where we agreed to meet was quiet, a small place near the park with dim lighting and that faint smell of roasted coffee beans. I saw her sitting at a corner table, her face pale, eyes darting around nervously. The moment I spotted her, my chest tightened. I took a steadying breath and approached her slowly, each step heavy like I was carrying a burden I couldn't drop. "Hey," I said, voice low but steady. "Thanks for meeting me." She looked up, her eyes flickering with a mixture of guilt and fear. "I didn't expect you to come," she whispered, voice strained. "I had to," I replied, taking a seat across from her. "There's something I need to get off my chest." She fidgeted with her hands, nervously biting her lip. "Look, I don't know what you think you know." "Oh, I think I know a lot," I cut her off. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table, screen facing her. "I've got the messages, Julia, with Mark." Her face drained of color. She stared at the phone, then looked away quickly as if that could erase what she'd done. "It's not what you think." "Oh, I think it is," I said, voice sharper now. "You've been lying to me for weeks. While I was out there trying to find a new job, you were with him." She looked down, her shoulders slumping. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. It just happened. Lonely, and I was stupid." "Stupid," I echoed bitterly. "That's what you call it. You think I deserve that? After everything we planned, after I lost everything, you decided I wasn't enough." Her eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't feeling the pity. Instead, I felt the slow burn of something darker, revenge. I needed her to feel the full weight of it. "I want to tell you something," I said, voice cold. "You see, I've been planning this for a while. I wasn't just going to walk away, Julia. Not without making sure you understand what you've done." She looked up, eyes wide with a flicker of hope or maybe desperation. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about exposing you," I said. "Not just to your friends or family, but publicly. I've already started. I've got your messages, your plans to meet him tonight. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what kind of person you've become." Her face twisted with shock. "You wouldn't do that." "Oh, I will," I said evenly. "You think I'd let you get away with this? After all the promises, all the trust? No way, you're going to lose everything just like I did." She reached across the table, her voice trembling. "Please don't do this. I was stupid. I swear I'll stop. I'll end it with Mark. Just please don't ruin me." I shook my head slowly, feeling a strange kind of satisfaction. "It's too late for that. You made your choice, Julia. And now I'm making mine. You're out of my life." Her eyes welled with tears, but I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't going to give her the chance to plead anymore. I'd already made up my mind. As I turned to leave, she called out, "Please don't do this. I love you." But love, real love, wouldn't have let her betray me like this. Love wouldn't have let her cheat with my best friend. That's why I didn't look back. I just walked out, leaving her sitting there, broken, crying, and helpless. The plan was in motion now, and I knew it would hit her hard. The social media posts, the revealing messages, the shock and shame, they were coming soon. I had to wait a little longer, though. Patience was key. All I could think about as I walked away was how every step away from her felt like a step toward reclaiming what was mine. She'd taken so much from me, but I was starting to take it all back. The worst was over, or so I told myself. The real fallout was just about to begin. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. I thought I'd feel victorious, like I'd finally taken control of the chaos she'd unleashed. But instead, I felt hollow. The moment I stepped back into my place, all that adrenaline drained out, leaving me with a gnawing emptiness I couldn't shake. I spent that evening preparing everything I'd need. I drafted posts for social media, a full exposé, with screenshots of her messages, time-stamped and clear. I wanted it to be undeniable, unarguable. I also set up a few fake accounts, just in case she tried to hide or delete anything. It was meticulous, cold work. The kind of work that made me realize I was no longer the same guy I'd been 2 weeks ago. As I sat at my desk, fingers trembling slightly, I drafted the text to accompany the posts. "Some truths are better left hidden," I typed. "But not anymore." I paused, took a deep breath, and clicked post. The notifications started pouring in almost immediately. First came the reactions from friends and acquaintances, disbelief, shock, anger. Then the messages from Julia, rapid fire, begging, pleading, crying for me to remove the post. I ignored them. I had already made my decision. I double-checked all the screenshots and links, ensuring everything was in place. This was it. I knew she'd be furious, humiliated, maybe even desperate enough to confront me directly. Sure enough, within the hour, her number flashed on my screen. I didn't pick up. Instead, I texted her. "You should stay away for a while. This isn't over, Julia. You threw away everything. I'm done." Her reply was frantic, begging, promising to do anything to fix things. But I knew better. You don't cheat and expect everything to just go back to normal. Not anymore. My phone buzzed constantly through the night. Messages from mutual friends. She was trying to save face, deny everything. But the truth was out there now in the open, and my fury grew with each new message. I felt a strange satisfaction watching her fall apart from afar, knowing I'd made her face her own betrayal. That night, I also made one final move. I went through her social media, saved all her photos, her posts, her messages. I wanted everything. I didn't want her to erase her mistakes and pretend it never happened. I wanted her to carry this shame, just like I'd carried that ache inside me for days. The next morning, I woke up with clarity. I didn't want to be that guy who wallowed in revenge forever, but I also knew I couldn't just pretend it didn't happen. I had to cut her out completely. I wrote a short message to her, telling her I was done, that I never wanted to see her again. Then I went to the bank, took out the last of our joint savings, and prepared to change the locks. I felt a strange quietness after that, like I'd finally stepped out of the chaos into some kind of peace, even if it was bitter. I knew this wasn't the end. I'd left her with a scar that wouldn't fade easily. But I also felt lighter somehow, like I'd reclaimed part of my dignity. Looking back now, I realize I never really loved her. I loved the idea of us, the life I'd envisioned. And when that was shattered, I felt betrayed in every fiber of my being. So I fought back, not with violence or brutality, but with truth. I wanted her to see what her betrayal had cost. That night, I handed over the keys to the apartment, leaving behind the memories that no longer served me. It was a clean break. No more tears, no more regrets. Just that quiet sense of closure. I told myself I'd survive, that I'd move on, but for now I just needed to sit with that emptiness, knowing I'd won a battle I didn't want to fight at all. And honestly, it felt damn good. The days that followed were a strange mix of relief and regret. I'd pulled the trigger on my revenge, and the fallout was as intense as I'd feared. Every notification, every message, every comment on the post was a reminder of what I'd done. Some friends sided with me, claiming I'd done the right thing. After all, she'd betrayed me. Others said I'd gone too far, that I'd humiliated her in a way that crossed a line. I didn't care much for their opinions. I'd achieved what I set out to do. She was exposed, humiliated, and she knew I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine anymore. Still, I couldn't shake that nagging feeling of emptiness. It gnawed at me, especially during quiet moments. I'd look around my apartment, now empty except for the bare furniture I'd left behind. I'd see the calendar, still marked with hopes of a wedding, a future, all gone now. I felt like I was walking through a ghost town, haunted by what I'd lost and the choices I'd made. One thing was clear: I needed to move on. But how? I'd been so consumed by revenge that I hadn't really thought about what came after. I kept replaying her face when I handed her the keys, her broken expression, her tears. Did I really want her to suffer? Or was I just trying to punish myself for trusting her at all? I started seeing a counselor just to talk through everything. It helped some. The counselor told me that revenge, while tempting, often leaves you more broken than before. I nodded, but inside I knew I'd needed that fire to wake me up. I had to be honest. I'd stayed in that relationship far longer than I should have. I'd ignored the red flags, convinced myself it was all just stress or that she'd be faithful. Now I finally saw her clearly. She'd been hiding who she really was, and I'd been blind. The thing I kept coming back to was this: I had to rebuild myself. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. I started going to the gym, trying to regain some control over my body, something I'd neglected during all this chaos. I also took up new hobbies, things I'd always wanted to do but never found the time. I realized I'd spent so much energy obsessing over her, I'd forgotten who I was. One evening, I sat down and drafted a message to her, something I never actually sent, just to put it out there, to get it off my chest. It read, "You may have broken me in ways I never expected, but I'm rebuilding now. You'll never see me like this again." I reread it, took a deep breath, and then deleted it. No need to send it. I was done with her, done with revenge, done with feeling powerless. Still, part of me wondered if I'd gone too far. Was I justified? Or did I just get caught up in my own anger? Honestly, I wasn't sure. What I did was brutal and I knew it. But I also knew I couldn't go back. The trust was shattered, irreparably broken. I had to accept that and move forward. I started dating again, cautiously. I didn't rush into anything, but I was determined to find someone who wouldn't make me feel this way, worthless, betrayed, used. It was slow going, but every new person I met reminded me that life goes on, even after devastation. Looking back, I see that revenge gave me a temporary sense of justice, but it also left scars I'd carry for a long time. The only way I could truly move past this was by facing myself, accepting what happened, forgiving myself for staying so long, and learning how to trust again. The final step was simple but powerful. I went to the bank, changed all the locks, and signed papers to officially end everything with her. I handed over the last of the joint accounts, and I felt a strange sense of closure. No more shared spaces, no more reminders of what once was, just a fresh start. When I left that apartment for the last time, I felt lighter. The weight of betrayal was still there, but I was finally free. Free to rebuild, to rediscover who I was without her. It wasn't easy, and I knew I'd face setbacks. But I also knew that I had taken my power back, step by step. And that, I guess, is the biggest lesson I've learned. Sometimes the only way to heal is to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but real strength comes from knowing when to walk away, rebuild, and trust yourself again. Looking back now, I realize that the whole experience changed me in ways I never expected. I used to think that revenge was about making her suffer, about getting back at her for what she did. But in the end, it was more about reclaiming my own dignity. I had to remind myself that I didn't deserve to be betrayed, to be used as a pawn in her game. The act of exposing her was necessary for my peace, for my future. But it also left me with a clearer view of who I am. After I handed over the keys, sealed all the accounts, and said my final goodbye, I felt a strange calm settle over me. It was like I'd finally closed that chapter, even if the scars would stay. I walked out of that apartment knowing I was leaving behind more than just the physical space. I was leaving behind the hurt, the anger, and the confusion. The betrayal had been a blow, but it also set me free from the illusion I'd been living in. Now I focus on rebuilding. I've gone back to school, started a new job, and even gone on a few dates. Nothing serious yet, but I'm learning to trust again slowly. The pain still lingers, but I've learned that time is the best healer and that revenge only delays healing. I've accepted that I can't change the past, but I can choose how I move forward. Most importantly, I've learned to listen to my gut. Red flags don't go away, they just grow louder if you ignore them. I see now that I should have trusted myself sooner, instead of convincing myself everything was fine. Ignorance doesn't protect you from heartbreak, it just prolongs the pain. To anyone out there going through something similar, I want to say this. Don't be afraid to face the truth, no matter how hard it is. Sometimes, the only way to truly heal is to confront what's broken, whether that's in yourself or someone else. Revenge might give you a temporary sense of justice, but real peace comes from acceptance and moving on. And remember, it's okay to feel angry, hurt, or betrayed. Those feelings are valid, but don't let them consume you forever. Use them to propel yourself forward, to make smarter choices, to grow stronger. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one who can decide your future. I handed over the last of my keys this morning. The apartment is empty now, just like my past with her. I'm standing here, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion, knowing I finally took control of my story. No more secrets, no more lies, just a new beginning. And honestly, that's the best revenge of all.